In this video, I will talk about a subculture that involves loud repetitive music, large gatherings, and dancing into the early hours. Rave culture. A rave was defined in the Criminal Justice and Public Order Act of 1994 as a gathering on land in open air, but is more commonly known as a large dance party featuring performances by DJs and occasionally live performers playing electronic dance music. In 1958, Buddy Holly recorded Rave On, citing the madness and frenzy of a feeling and desire for it never to end. Rave was later used in the early 1960s as a way to describe a wild party in general, but it was only in the 1980s that rave got an association with electronic dance music. Raves began as an underground movement of like-minded people that got together to dance to all types of electronic music, with the music being amplified with sound systems to produce a deep bass sound and accompanied with light shows, visual effects, and fog machines. Chicago in the mid-late 1980s saw a wave of psychedelic and other electronic dance music starting to emerge. After a couple years of jacking with house music, acid house was born. The new sound began with a record produced by Future, a group founded by DJ Pierre, Earl Spanky Smith Jr. and Herbert Herb J. Jackson, Acid Tracks. DJ Ron Hardy played the track at the famous Chicago club Music Box, in which he reportedly played the track 4 times before the crowd responded favourably. After numerous spins, it became a dance floor sensation, and Acid Tracks became the defining sound for the new acid house coming out of Chicago. In the late 1980s, however, Chicago's house scene suffered a crackdown on events by the police, with WBMX, one of Chicago's only house radio stations, being shut down, which meant record sales slowed, and so did the scene. However, it was just about to start up in the UK. The scene started up in London and was in full swing by 1987, with Jack Your Body climbing to the top of the charts. This was the UK's first house music #1 and paved the way for the acid house sound. Acid house didn't really make a big impact until a group of 4 DJs, Paul Oakenfold, Danny Rampling, Nicky Holloway and Johnny Walker, took a trip to Ibiza to visit the acclaimed club Amnesia, where they heard the resident DJ Alfredo blending records in the Balearic style, which fused together funk, soul, dance and a few Chicago acid tracks. When Danny returned, he opened a club to bring the spirit of Ibiza to the UK. Shroom was opened on December 5th, 1987, where the party went on all night with crowds flooding into the streets, raving to the new acid house sounds. While you can attend a rave without taking any substances, the vast majority choose not to, with the consumption of drugs such as MDMA, cocaine, ketamine and other hallucinogens being a fundamental part of raves since their inception. In the case of drug taking being a common practice within the subculture, it clashes with legal norms, which naturally provokes negative responses from authorities, media and the general public. The dishonest use of statistics in BBC responses to the subculture resulted in constructed physical, psychological and social risks. By exaggerating the dangers of rave culture, the BBC supported the Thatcherite agenda of eliminating the culture itself. In the documentary E is for Ecstasy, medical professionals stress the sometimes very fatal potential of the drug, emphasizing that there have been a number of fatalities and that the drug was a tragic killer. At the time of the documentary's making, the narrator claimed that there had been at least 12 victims of ecstasy-related deaths since 1988, which equated to 3 per year, which, considering the size of the subculture, is minimal. One example of a moral panic on the news was the case of schoolgirl Leah Betts from Essex. She died a couple of days after her 18th birthday, in which the news report suggested that she died from a contaminated ecstasy pill. Sorted. Just 1 tablet took Leah Betts. was printed on numerous billboards around the country, sparking a nationwide panic. What the media failed to mention was the actual cause of death was due to 7 litres of water she consumed within 90 minutes, which caused serious swelling of the brain and hyponatremia. The Laserdome Rave documentary claimed that in 1992, the existence of 500,000 ecstasy users was a conservative estimate, and that in any nightclub within a small town or city, you'd find between 50 and 80% of people using ecstasy. Therefore, describing ecstasy as a serious threat to young people and comparing it to heroin without any statistical evidence only serves to exaggerate the dangers of the drug. Psychological effects were shown in an extremely one-sided light, with one BBC documentary's footage only focusing on ravers who experienced acute psychological issues as a result of the drug, and almost completely refusing to interview anyone who hadn't experienced any problems. Interview subjects revealed that they had suffered symptoms such as anxiety and panic attacks, paranoia, or completely breaking down, while ravers who hadn't experienced any of these were less present in the discussion. Another documentary, Laserdome Rave documentary, had a medical doctor state that although there had been little substantial research into the psychological effects of ecstasy, he believed it is possible that 50% of people who take ecstasy may develop severe suicidal depression. Given the stated lack of research, the figure of 50% appears to be nothing more than a random percentage, and therefore the psychological side effects were exaggerated and helped shape a one-sided view on rave culture. In terms of the constructed social risks, the Laserdome Rave documentary suggested that acid house is associated with violence without any evidence, and there was even one documentary aired on the BBC that drew testimony from a reverend who stated, "I tend to think raves are unhealthy." The use of such an interview subject demonstrates the BBC's willingness to demonise rave culture.
The travellers say they won't be moving on for a few days, and tonight the festival still appears to be in full swing.
Castle Morton Common Festival was a free week-long rave that was held in the Malvern Hills between the 22nd and the 29th of May in 1992, in which between 20 and 40,000 people attended, being the biggest of its kind since the Stonehenge Free Festival in the mid-1980s. Castle Morton hosted many of the large sound systems of the time. That, combined with the attendance of many big-name DJs, created high-profile coverage in the national media. This only served to swell the crowd further, making it impossible for authorities to close the festival down. This created nationwide panic, as people were asking where the next festival of this kind would pop up. All this negative attention prompted the Criminal Justice and Public Order Act of 1994, where powers were given to remove persons attending or preparing for a rave. The Act applies to a gathering on land in the open air of 100 or more persons at which amplified music is played during the night. This was amended in 2004 to further crack down on rave culture by lowering the number needed to constitute a rave to 20. With the rise of more social media platforms, it has never been easier to spread the word for an upcoming rave. And I think that in the future, in light of statistics and uncovering of misleading media, it is likely that the police and public will grow to see ecstasy as a less dangerous drug, and in turn, the laws may become less strict and rave culture will begin to be more accepted.